Hello and welcome to the daily newscast within the United Countries special by First Ukraine. You can find us at the frequencies available at our website firsta.com. Yulia Reshitko is working through in the studio. Thank you for joining us. Terrorists shells Luhansk, Donetsk and Artemis. According to General Staff, they shell Ukrainian positions with mine throwers, guns and anti-aircraft installations. In the danger zone, there are villages nearby Bakhmutka. At midnight, there was a battle in Mariupol region nearby Shirokina. The attack was repelled. Silence was broken near Donetsk airport.
It was hot and restless near the Donetsk airport, where gunmen opened fire 18 times with mortars, anti-aircraft units of 23 and 2 automatic launchers and also small arms. Overall, there are fixed 18 attacks of AT opposition in this sector in this area.
Ukrainian soldiers ended the second round of heavy artillery withdrawal from the demarcation line. They are ready to start the third round, of course, if the combatants will abide by peace plan, as the ATO press center reports. The OSCE observers and foreign journalists watched the redislocation, as the staff reports. Previously, the propelled Hoftizer were driven to the home front. Now the propelled machinery is being prepared to be withdrawn.
Last day, within the second phase of self-propelled artillery installation, were relocated at a specified distance. In the near future, on the conditions of peace agreements abidance by THAC formations, the third removal artillery phase will begin.
15 tanks with Russian soldiers entered the occupied Gorlivka. It was reported by the advisor to the Minister of the Interior, Zoryan Shkiryak. According to him, that is the information from local citizens. Today is a day of mourning for the dead of the Zasyadka mine in Donetsk. The accident occurred on the eve. That was the outbreak of gas-methane mixture. There were 230 underground coal miners in mine at that time. 32 were died. This mine was temporarily controlled by militants in the area. Ukrainian rescuers were not allowed in there. In fact, the Prosecutor General's office initiated an investigation of the incident. The night explosion in Odessa was qualified by police as a terrorist act. The explosion was at the ground floor of the living house in Koblevska Street 40. Blast wave damaged 2 offices in the basement and cars parked nearby. In some apartments there were broken windows. The press service of the regional department of the Ministry of Internal Affairs reports that there were no victims. The room where the explosion occurred is the office of the right sector. According to the spokesperson of the Odessa office of the right sector, Barbara Chernovaitenko, 3 people who were in the office were not injured. Brussels could lift the sanctions against Yanukovych and his entourage. That was reported by Radio Svoboda. According to journalists, the European Council will recognize restrictions on personal activities on 18 Ukrainian ex-officials. The reason for this is that they do not have open criminal proceedings and accusations against them. The assets of politicians were frozen a year ago because of suspected illegal taking of property. Beside Yanukovych, in the list there are 6. There are his sons Alexander, Viktor, Mykola Azarov and his son Alexei, Vitaly Zakharchenko, Viktor Pshonka, Andrei Kluyev, Olena Lukash and Alexander Yakimenko. Changes to list of sanctions might be published on Friday. And now we have a guest from Belgium, a researcher from Geneva School of Diplomacy and International Relations, Arno van der Hasselt, who studies the Ukraine crisis. Good evening, Mr. van der Hasselt.
Good evening.
So I'm very wondering, do you like Ukraine, and why did you choose your thesis topic, Ukrainian crisis, for your research?
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you for inviting me. I'm truly impressed by the people of Ukraine. There's little information coming from the Ukrainian people to Western Europe. So first of all, I'm very impressed by the hospitality and of course the food. Second question that you asked me is why did I choose this topic? I used to live in Russia for a year and a half. And due to circumstances, this feeling towards Russia is really great, but obviously too to Europe. That's why I truly believe that this conflict, this struggle, pardon me, is very, very important for me, for us, and for our next generations.
Okay, I see. And you have a lot of information during your research. And can you tell me, please, do you see some possibilities to solve the conflict, and who can lead these possibilities? Who can just grant our possibilities to end the Ukrainian crisis, Ukrainian conflict?
Thank you very much for this question, because it's very, very important. This is also the reason why I'm here, to find different solutions for this struggle. And I do believe that the people who, or the persons who can lead this solution are we. We are the next generation. We are the people with the voice. Euromaidan happened because of there was a voice of the people. You know? Even in Europe, we are also fed up with some elites. Here, during my time here in Ukraine, the first thing that I understood is people are fed up with the elite. So therefore, I strongly answer your question saying we are the ones to take control, and we are the ones to lead this beautiful world in the next day. But in the meantime, I must say European Union is doing a great job, in my opinion. I also understand that Ukrainians are quite, I would say, fed up with seeing no change. But only through diplomacy, I believe, there is a good solution.
And probably among the Ukrainian politicians, do you see the leader who can end this conflict? Or among Russian politicians?
No,
okay.
I don't.
Okay. Another question will be about the armament. Do you believe that Western armament will help Ukraine to end the conflict and to resolve the situation?
The armament of arming Ukraine with lethal weapons, I believe you mean. Certainly, I'm heavily against this. But so why I'm against this? First of all, is if you look throughout the last 2 decades or 5 years ago, everywhere where there was arming of a certain location, certain region, it didn't solve the problem. It only extended the problem, or it moved the problem to another region. Therefore, I would say no. But I also understand that sometimes you have to fight fire with fire. And if the European Union, if the West just in general, decides to arm Ukraine, the Ukrainian army, I would maybe be more precise, meaning provide them training, provide them salaries for the soldiers, or specific weapons that are effective against aggression. Because I do understand you cannot fight a T-72 tank with an AK-47. So.
Mm-hmm. And following your answer, so how can you explain the probably Kyiv treatment of Russia? How should Kyiv treat Kremlin in such a condition when soldiers do not have enough armament or heavy armament, for instance, and probably Moscow attacks Moscow, Kremlin, Russian soldiers, and terrorist attacks our Ukrainian soldiers? They die, and that's it. How should Kyiv react on that?
Good question. First of all, I'd like to correct you. I'm not here to point any fingers. I have no proof that the Russian Federation is in the region. I do know that Russia is supporting the pro-Russian-backed rebels in the Donbas region. Also in the south, in Crimea, was an obvious example of this. But I don't see necessarily burning bridges, but actually building more bridges. You know, this is my understanding of the future cooperation, I would say, or future talks with the Russian Federation. Because whoever you are, you will always have a big sleeping bear next to you, meaning the Russian Federation. You cannot change the location as a country.
Mm-hmm. You said that Ukrainians are fed up with the so-called EU being only some kind, being interested in the conflict and being concerned with the conflict. Why the EU is so late with its decisions? How can you explain that fact?
The thing is, it's not that simple to just make a decision, especially not in the current international sphere. Why? Why is Europe so late? Why are they not capable of doing anything? Because they're trapped by the Russian Federation. Why? European Union economy is one of the greatest, is one of the biggest economies in the whole world, but is unfortunately fed by another bloc. And if, for instance, Germany in the peak of a moment was losing 80 million euros a day because of the sanctions, it's not that easy to say, okay, we're going to stop all the corporations with the Russian Federation, because it will be suicide. Suicide for the European Union, and also suicide for Russian Federation. That's why it's not that easy. If there are sanctions, it's the best sanctions that we can try to do, because we have to also take into consideration that UK, France, Poland, so those are rising economies or very stable economies. They need to be fed. And if you look at Poland, for instance, if you look at the Baltic states, that's also a very big problem, because they have security concerns. You know, what will happen? But then if you look at France, if you look at Italy, if you look at Germany, they have economical means, they have economical issues. So it's just not that simple. I do believe, I do understand how Ukraine is very frustrated with this delay. But please believe me, it's not that simple. It's really not that simple.
Okay, could you probably foresee the future developments in the Ukrainian crisis?
Yes, I have a very cynical opinion on this. If the pro-Russian rebels would be victorious, they will not just stop with the Baltsovo, for instance. No, they will go further. They might go and take Mariupol. They will try to connect the Crimea with their Novorossiyan mainland. And then they might even go to Odessa and then try to take parts of Moldova. It's very dangerous, but I cannot say this is Russia. I can say those are the pro-Russian backed rebels. Those are individuals, because I do not have proof on this.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Vanderhasselt, very much for your interview. And we proceed with our news. Mikhail Saakashvili and Garry Kasparov agitated for Ukraine in Washington. In American Senate, there were hearings devoted to the situation on Donbass. In particular, the former Georgian president urged the U.S. to provide weapons to Ukraine. According to him, it is necessary for Ukrainians to fight for their future and a strong democracy. According to Saakashvili, only weapon will be able to stop the further advance of the Russian in Donbass. The same opinion has the Russian opposition leader Garry Kasparov. He told senators that sanctions are important, but they will not stop Putin. He spoke about the number and the murder of Boris Nemtsov. Dzhokhar Tsarnaev pleaded guilty for the explosions in Boston. On the eve of the trial in the case of a terrorist attack during the marathon happened 2 years ago began. At the meeting, Tsarnaev's lawyer told the jury that the defendant admits his guilt. According to the lawyer, he was influenced by his old brother, Tamerlan. He was killed during the arrest. Lawyer plans to build a line of defense on his fact. 20-year-old Dzhokhar Tsarnaev can be sentenced to death penalty. In Seoul, the American ambassador was under attack. Mark Lippel was on a business breakfast in Seoul when he was attacked by a man with a small knife, wounding his face and arm. The criminal exclaimed calls for unification of South Korea and North Korea. Diplomat was hospitalized and was applied 80 stitches. Now his life is not in danger, said the White House. Lippel himself wrote in his microblog that feels normal. The criminal is detained by police. It appeared to be a 55-year-old citizen of South Korea's Kim Ki-chan. According to police, in the year of 2010, he committed the attack on the Japanese ambassador. He threw a brick. The session hall of Ukrainian parliament is not the only one in the world where the MPs beat each other. MPs of Italian, Turkish, Japanese, Taiwanese, Nepalese and Indian parliament often arrange fights. They are punished in different ways. In some cases, they are forbidden to come to sessions. They are not granted bonuses to wages for their performance. In Iran, the MPs who violates the regulation could be whipped. The details are in our next story.
The fights between European, Asian and those of the Third World Parliament members take place for the many reasons, such as political, economical and religious. It is rare to see the one-on-one fight. Usually it's a wall-to-wall fist fighting. This is the fight in a Taiwan parliament. Nearly 50 deputies punched each other for over 3 hours in 2007. Even women did not stay aside. The stumbling stone was the appointment of the Central Election Committee. The majority of the deputies knew about the fight, so they came wearing comfortable shoes. And all was done for the purpose of creating the coverage opportunity, because the Taiwan media rarely covers the work of parliament members. Another center of parliament members' clashes is Japanese parliament. On December of 2013, the opposition did not want to support the law on the national security information. The bullies were rarely stopped by their colleagues. The law was accepted anyway, and this is a different conflict. The parliament members are sharpening judo skills at their workplace. The occasion, interpersonal hostility. Turkey is known for religious clashes between Christian parliamentarians and the followers of Sharia. During one of those commotions, one of the deputies' heart pressure jumped abruptly. He died before the ambulance arrives. The opponent was admitted guilty in an involuntary manslaughter and was put into prison for 3 days. Constitution is another apple of discord, this time for Nepal deputies. The winter, tense communists fought with the socialists in front of the president. Opposition wanted to contribute changes to the basic law, but they could not do so. They attacked opponents from leading socialist party. 3 people were injured. But as far as Europe goes, they fight rarely, thanks to strict discipline and penalty system. The Great Britain, for instance, does not have the speech podium in the House of Commons, so the parliamentarians can't block it and they speak from their seats. They vote with their legs instead of cards and hands. If someone needs to step out, they do so through the yes and no doors. The heads of the parliament's fractions make sure who goes where. The rule violation means loss of salary or a chair in the future elections. France, Germany, Poland and Romania forbid to enter the session hall and make a vote if one has violated discipline. Anastasia Sinagovskaya, Sergei Velichansky, First Ukraine.
And we should add some positive facts. There is a unique case in Rivne region. A mom of 8 children has given birth to 3 boys. She gave them the names Demir, Denis and Dmitro. So the lives goes on.
Maria Evgenievich is 38 years old. She gave birth to 3 boys, Demir, Denis and Dmitrik. They are the focus. The doctors of Rivne Prenatal Center assured mother and babies are fine, although kids appeared on the world prematurely. The doctors were not released their home yet. These children were adopted and therefore will be in this hospital by the time until the first child doesn't track up more than 2 kilograms. The woman in labor remembers her surprise news of triplet babies. When I got pregnant, we went to Rokitna. The doctors told me, "You've got twins." I agreed, all birth twins. A month later, we went to the Rivne. The doctors told me about the triplet babies. At home in his village Dozdakh in the Rivne region, they will all have a large family. Parents already have 8 children. The oldest daughter, 19, the youngest, only 3.5-year-old. Mother hopes that all family members help her. Well, I think that sisters and my daughter will help me. It's normal. God will give me strength and help me. Do not leave them. However, the joy of the birth of 3 sons spoils fears for the financial situation of the family. After all, there is no work in the village. Parents do not lose faith in a better life. Mother and children return home after they gain the desired weight. Artem Lagovsky, Olena Simonovich, Helen Sarenko, First Ukraine.
It was the United Country newscast by First Ukraine. You can find more details at our website, firsta.com. Yulia Reshitko was working for you in the studio. We wish you only good news. Take care and goodbye.